Welcome to a Path Less Travelled UK St Paul's to Covent Garden tour. My name is Marcy, and as with all my walking guides, the aim of this tour is to make travelling between points of interest more interesting. For the main attractions, please make full use of the guides at the sites to get the most of your visit. Also note that there are 4 churches on this tour, so you may want to avoid doing the walk on a Sunday when they may be closed to tourists. Check their websites if you would like to attend a service. They are all Church of England, that is to say, Protestant. Also note, Sir John Soane's museum is closed on Mondays and Tuesdays. Before proceeding, please ensure you have listened to the introduction on YouTube or read it on the Path Less Travelled UK Facebook or Instagram pages. This will give you all the relevant information, such as important safety notices, as you are responsible for your well-being at all times on these tours. Also, don't listen to the commentary while walking. Keep alert of your surroundings and find a safe spot to stop and listen. The next 2 photos are from Google Maps, giving an overview of the area we're covering. There are also detailed maps in each section of the commentary to assist you in finding your way around. The whole tour takes approximately an hour, not accounting for stopping at the sites. Now, assuming you're up to speed on the general premise of these self-guided walking tours, let's begin. We're starting today's tour at St Paul's Underground Station, which is found on the Central Line. As you exit the station, turn immediately right outside the ticket barrier and take exit 2 towards St Paul's Cathedral. Once up the stairs, turn sharply left so you are walking with the stairs you just came up on your left-hand side. I know the temptation is to carry on straight towards the cathedral, but it wouldn't be a Path Less Travelled UK without taking a more interesting detour. Instead, please turn right onto Paternoster Row and continue down it, pausing to take a photo of the cathedral down Cannon Alley. Continue straight on Paternoster Row until you reach the gold-topped column in the square. Pause commentary until you reach there. The Paternoster Square column is 23.3 metres, that's about 75 feet high, and made of Portland stone. It was designed by the Whitfield partners and doubles as a ventilation shaft for the car park beneath it. The column commemorates the fact that this area has been destroyed twice, the first in the Great Fire of London of 1666, and then during the Blitz in World War II. On your way to the column, you will have passed the bronze statue of the Shepherd with his Flock, Paternoster, made by Elizabeth Frink in 1975. This gives an acknowledgement to the fact a sheep market was held here centuries ago, and as Paternoster is the Old English word for Our Father, it also gives a nod to the cathedral. Now, from the column, turn left, and you should see Temple Bar, London. This magnificent gateway originally sat at the western end of Fleet Street, but was moved to Theobald's Park in Hertfordshire, where it remained in an ever-increasing state of decay until 2003. It was then the City of London, the Temple Bar Trust, and several livery companies funded the £3 million to have it moved here in 2004. It was originally commissioned by King Charles II from Sir Christopher Wren in 1669, who also designed St Paul's Cathedral behind it. When you are ready, pass through the gateway and turn right, heading for the statue of Queen Anne, located outside the front of the cathedral. Pause commentary until you reach there. You are now looking at St Paul's Cathedral, Sir Christopher Wren's masterpiece of architecture. Construction started in 1675 after the old cathedral was destroyed in the Great Fire of London. It was eventually opened in 1710. It was the tallest building in London for 250 years, at 365 feet, or 111 metres, losing out only when the BT Tower was built in 1965. It is now approximately the 53rd tallest building in London. This is where, on the 29th of July, 1981, Lady Diana Spencer married Prince Charles, who is now King Charles III. Princess Diana, who is the mother of William, Prince of Wales, and Harry, caused quite a stir at the time with her wedding dress, which included a 25-foot, over 7.5-metre long train. Other notable events are the funerals of Lord Nelson, Winston Churchill, and the Duke of Wellington. The latter is famous for his involvement in defeating Napoleon at the Battle of Waterloo. If you wish to visit the cathedral, please make your way to the marked entrance in front of you. Be warned, it's not a bargain venture at over £20 per adult, but these buildings are expensive to maintain. Be sure to make the most of your visit by going to the Courtauld Gallery, if you can manage the 528 steps, and the crypt. I would allow at least 90 minutes for your visit. Once finished, come back to the Queen Anne statue to continue your tour. Pause commentary now. The reason there is a statue of Queen Anne in front of the cathedral is she was reigning monarch when it was opened. Once a relatively obscure queen, she's been brought to life from the pages of history by the film The Favourite, though let's just say liberties were taken with some of the facts. Towards the end of the 1800s, the original statue was in a sorry state. It was suggested at the time that instead of replacing it, they could remove it, as it would make it far easier to maneuver Queen Victoria's carriage up to the cathedral then. When the Queen heard about this, it is said she was furious. She had a very strained relationship with her son, the future King Edward VII, and didn't want to set a precedent of removing monuments to past monarchs. The new statue is a copy of the original and was unveiled in 1886. Please now take the nearby pedestrian crossing to the opposite side of Ludgate Hill. Turn right and follow the road until you reach a narrow street on the left called Bride Lane. Turn left, and a short way down you will see a small staircase on the right leading to St. Bride's Avenue. Follow the avenue to the gateway on the left that leads to the entrance of the church. Pause commentary until you are inside the church, perhaps making use of the pews to give your feet a rest. St. Bride's can date its history back to the Roman period in 43 CE. CE stands for Common Era, and it's been used as an alternative to AD for years. There is a very good exhibition on its history in the crypt, which is free to enter at the time of recording, as well as the church. I do ask if you enjoy your visit and are able to do so, consider making a donation on the card reader by the shop desk. The church was rebuilt and expanded on many times over the centuries. The most notable was it being one of the first churches rebuilt after the Great Fire by Sir Christopher Wren, yes, him again, and after World War II, when an incendiary raid by the Germans destroyed the church on the 29th of December 1940. The church was rededicated in the presence of Queen Elizabeth II on the 19th of December 1957, exactly 282 years after Wren's church, which the reconstruction was faithful to. Being located close to Fleet Street, St. Bride's has had a long history with journalists and the Press Association, which is well documented in the exhibition. I'll let you now enjoy the wonderful atmosphere of this beautiful building. When finished, please take a seat again to listen to the next section of commentary before exiting out the glass doors opposite the altar. Pause commentary now. When ready, go straight ahead from the glass doors, which is a continuation of St. Bride's Avenue, until you reach Salisbury Court at the end of the archway. Turn right and follow the road a short way up to Fleet Street. Turn left, crossing the road carefully as you do so, and follow the road crossing Whitefriars Street, again taking care, and then turn right to cross Fleet Street at the pedestrian crossing immediately after that. Pause once you are safely across the road, looking towards Fleet Street Heritage Sundial on the opposite side. Pause commentary until you reach there. The sundial, designed by Piers Nicholson, was completed in October 2021 and is a tribute to when the area was the centre for the newspaper industry. We are now leaving Fleet Street, however, by taking the passageway that was immediately in front of you when you cross the road, Bolt Court. Go straight as far as you can, then turn right into the narrow passageway that leads to Hind Court. Turn left and go to the end of Hind Court, making use of the benches there to listen to the story of Hodge the cat. Pause commentary until you reach there. This charming statue is a tribute to Hodge, the cat that lived with his owner, Dr. Samuel Johnson, in the Georgian house just across the square in around 1769. Dr. Johnson, while being most famous for first collating the English dictionary into a format we would recognize today, he has also had a number of quotes attributed to him that you may have heard. I personally remember making a memorial cross-stitch picture to my grandparents' cat Caesar, on which I stitched the phrase, "a very fine cat indeed," as it seemed fitting, but not knowing where it came from. I now know it comes from a conversation Dr. Johnson had with James Boswell, who wrote the book Life of Johnson in 1791. In it, Boswell claims to have observed an affectionate exchange between Hodge and Johnson, and Boswell said that Hodge was a fine cat. Johnson is said to have replied, "Why, yes, sir, but I have had cats whom I like better than this." Perhaps he feared he offended Hodge, for he followed the statement with, "But he is a very fine cat indeed." Hodge is posed on the top of a replica of Johnson's famous dictionary, with a couple of oyster shells. Though thought of as a luxury food today, oysters were plentiful in the Georgian period and commonly eaten by the poor. Johnson didn't want to degrade his servant by asking him to go out to buy oysters for the cat, so he would go out and buy them himself. We are next going to cross the square to Dr. Johnson's house. There is a modest entrance fee, but as I mentioned, old buildings are expensive to maintain. I went here for the first time while researching this walk, and I can tell you, hand on heart, that I loved it. The house has maintained its charm. Even though it's had to be restored after a fire in World War II, it still has many Georgian features. I also love the fact that they haven't filled it with interactive screens or actors pretending to be historical characters. It is just a quiet tribute to a remarkable person that, through his efforts to standardize the English language, still impacts on us to this day. Dr. Johnson was ahead of his time in terms of advocating for women's rights and was passionately against slavery. I would allow at least 45 minutes for your visit. I'll leave it at that, except to share another pearl of Dr. Johnson's wisdom. Yesterday is not ours to recover, but tomorrow is ours to win or lose. Please pause commentary until you are finished at the house and standing back outside of it. Standing with the front of the house behind you, turn left and proceed through the archway and carefully cross the road until you are in front of the building covered with plants. Pause commentary until you reach there. The living wall of New Street Square was installed in 2011 by Biotecture. It covers 240 square meters, approximately 2,580 square feet, and features many native plants, helping add biodiversity to an otherwise grey landscape. You are next going to follow Pemberton Row, which is the road to the left when you went through the archway, and follow it as it becomes West Harding Street to the end. Incidentally, that gorgeous building in front of you at the end of the street is the Mon Library. It's part of King's College and sadly not open to the public. Turn left onto Fetter Lane and go to the end of the road, turning right onto Fleet Street. Staying on the right-hand side, walk a couple of buildings down and you will see an opening with an iron gate on the right. Enter the little courtyard, looking up at the statue in front of you when you get there. Pause commentary until you reach there. You are now looking at what is possibly the last statue of Queen Elizabeth I on public display that was created during her lifetime. Made in 1586, it was originally at Ludgate, which was one of the 7 gates that stood in the City of London walls. Next to this courtyard, after briefly going back onto the pavement, that's sidewalk for any North Americans listening, and you will find the entrance to St. Dunstan's in the west. Sadly, I couldn't explore the church on the day that I was researching the tour, as they were in the middle of a free piano concert, but from what I've read, it has an impressive history going back 1,000 years. It has an unusual octagonal nave constructed in the 1830s that is fairly hidden on the exterior by later buildings going up around it. St. Dunstan's, though Church of England, shares the building with the Romanian Orthodox Church of St. George. The iconastus, which is a wall painting of religious figures to the left of the main altar, came from the Antium Monastery in Bucharest in 1966. It's how many churches manage to stay open by sharing their sites with other faiths. For any Americans listening, Lord Baltimore, founder of the state of Maryland, is buried here. The diarist, Samuel Pepys, was also a regular worshipper. The most interesting association I've discovered, though, was with the legend of Sweeney Todd, the so-called demon barber of Fleet Street. Mentioned in the first story about him in 1846, The String of Pearls, A Domestic Romance, after his partner in crime, Mrs. Lovett, bakes her pies, the rest of the victim's remains are taken to St. Dunstan's via an underground passage. I sincerely hope you're not having pie for dinner tonight after hearing that. Pause commentary until you are finished with the church, perhaps making use of the pews to listen to the next section before leaving. When ready, exit the church the way you came in and turn right, continuing down Fleet Street a short way to the first intersection you reach with Chancery Lane. At the corner, briefly pause and admire the striking architecture of Prince Henry's Room on the opposite side of Fleet Street. A rare survivor of the Great Fire of London, it is believed to go back to the 12th century, though it was changed in 1610 to become the Prince's Arms Tavern. The name of the building is said to refer to the son of King James I of England, but it seems unlikely that he ever set foot in it. Crossing Chancery Lane when safe to do so, continue down Fleet Street a short way until you see the Temple Bar Memorial. Don't cross the road, but pause the commentary until you have a good view of it. You will recall I mentioned the Temple Bar near St. Paul's Cathedral, where we started our tour, had been installed there after being removed from Fleet Street. This memorial was put up to replace that. It was designed by Sir Horace Jones in 1880, who also designed Tower Bridge, and includes a dragon sculpture by Charles Bell Birch at the top. It also has statues of Queen Victoria and her son Edward, Prince of Wales at the time. The ornate columns pay homage to the arts, science, and instruments of war. If you wish to take photos of the memorial with the Queen Victoria statue, please use the pedestrian crossing further up the road and come back to the monument. Whether you cross or not, make your way back up Fleet Street to the corner of Chancery Lane, crossing Fleet Street if you need to do so. Incidentally, that rather impressive building that you can see on the right-hand side of Fleet Street is the Royal Courts of Justice. Though the public can visit the rather grand Victorian Great Hall, I figure most people would rather avoid going to court unless absolutely necessary, so I've left it off the tour. Pause commentary until you have reached Chancery Lane and have taken a few steps up so you are out of the main walkway. Please continue to walk up the left-hand side of Chancery Lane. I know my photos are from the right-hand side, but trust me, you want to be on the left. And just after passing a street called Southampton Buildings on the right, you will see this gateway on the left. Pass through the gateway and proceed to the Old Square to the left. Go straight down until you reach the front of Lincoln Inn's Chapel. Go through the archway and take the stairs up to the right. Go through the doors at the top and open the door to your right after you enter the hallway. You should then be in the chapel. Pause commentary until you reach there. The current Lincoln's Inn Chapel was consecrated in 1623 and designed by Inigo Jones, though inn records mention a chapel as early as 1428. The chapel bell was rung at 9 p.m. every evening to mark curfew, but also at lunchtime on the days when a bencher passed away. Lincoln's Inn is one of the centres of the law profession in London, and benchers refers to one of the senior members of the inn that are appointed to the position Master of the Bench for life. They are normally High Court judges. Back to the chapel, though. The poet, John Donne, was a preacher here and laid the foundation stone in 1620. It is believed the line from his poem, No Man is an Island, that states, "And therefore never send to know for whom the bell tolls, it tolls for thee," refers to this practice. There is a small memorial to John Donne under the window on the west side near the pulpit. The chapel was repaired in 1685 with input from Sir Christopher Wren, which is making me think I should have called this walk the Wren Tour. In 1797, it was almost entirely rebuilt and had another major renovation in 1883. You can still see evidence of a Zeppelin air raid from 1915 on the north wall and the undercroft when a bomb landed in the old square and destroyed 2 of the windows. This is why the stained glass was removed during World War II to protect them. I say stained glass, but the windows are actually painted glass, designed by Abraham and Bernard van Ling sometime after they fled France and settled in London around 1621. There are 3 large windows on each side of the chapel by the brothers. Once you have finished exploring the chapel and undercroft, please exit through the archway you first entered and cross through the pathway opposite when it is safe to do so. Turn left at the end of the path and then right, so you are walking towards the gateway at the end of the road. Cross to the park entrance opposite when the way is clear. Pause commentary until you reach there. You can follow the pavement that runs around the outside of the park if you prefer, but I for one will always take the leafy option if available. This is Lincoln's Inn Fields. Enter the park and take the path to the right. Follow it to the opposite corner and around to the left. You will pass a tribute to the Royal Canadian Air Force, which had its headquarters here in World War II. Shortly after this, you will see an exit from the park on your right. Please take it and cross to the opposite side of the street when safe to do so. Pause commentary until you reach there. To your left, it is highly likely that you can see a queue, that's a British term for line-up, a short way down the street. If not, look out for the red signs for the Sir John Soane's Museum. It is open Wednesday to Sunday, so please consider that when planning your walk. Free to enter at the time of recording, but you must be willing to follow their rules of no large bags and be willing to put your handbag in a carrier bag to hold. This is to protect the fragile contents of the house. If possible, time your visit for about 10:30 a.m., 2:30 p.m. or 3:30 p.m. so you can watch the changing of the picture room recess a half hour later. Trust me, you'll want to see it. So who was John Soane? Primarily, he was an architect, and many of his buildings survive. Sadly, not the Bank of England, which he is most famous for, but the Dulwich Picture Gallery does, which set a standard for art galleries going forward since it opened in 1817. What this house features, though, is his extensive collection of art and antiquities. For example, when he obtained the sarcophagus of Seti I in 1825, he hosted a 3-day party to celebrate, inviting 890 guests. I think this is one museum you really need to experience for yourself, as it is probably unlike any that you have encountered. Forget glass cases and neat labels, think along the lines of posh hoarder. Allow at least 90 minutes for your visit and take it easy on the stairs. Pause commentary until you have finished with the museum and are back outside. After exiting the house, turn right and walk straight down, so that when you cross from the right-hand side of the road called Lincoln's Inn Fields, you will end up on the left-hand side of Remnant Street. Have a look at the map if that sounds confusing. At the next intersection, Kingsway, marked the A4200 on the map, turn left and walk down to the next intersection, Sardinia Street, and pause to admire the quirky corner of the London School of Economics building. Pause commentary until you reach there. This sculpture, by Richard Wilson, installed in 2009, is called Square the Block, and I like the fact that due to its position it can be easily missed, but once you notice it, you can't believe you ever missed it. Next, we are continuing down Kingsway to the next intersection with Portugal Street. Turn left onto Portugal Street, staying on the left-hand side, and shortly you will come to a large globe sculpture. Pause commentary until you reach there. The World Turned Upside Down is a work by Mark Wallinger that measures 4 meters or 13 feet across. It was unveiled in 2019. The name comes from a 17th century English ballad, which I will sing for you now. Just kidding. It was a protest against the policies of Parliament outlawing traditional Christmas celebrations, believing it should be a solemn occasion. There is some controversy over the labelling of some of the countries, Taiwan for example, so don't be surprised if you see an added sticker in certain places. It is a public work of art though, so this is viewed as vandalism. Please don't be tempted to join in. If you stand next to the bike racks with the globe behind you and look across the square, you will see an older building with the name The Old Curiosity Shop on it. This is the shop, built in 1567, that is referred to by Charles Dickens' novel of the same name. Sadly closed, but if you'd like a photo, please pause the commentary and nip across the square to take one and return to the sculpture when finished. Next, please make your way across Portugal Street when the way is clear and back up to Kingsway. Turn left at the corner and continue to the end of the road, crossing at the pedestrian crossing in front of you. Turn right and walk past Bush House. This was once the home of the BBC, the British Broadcasting Corporation, but it is now a campus for King's College. Continue past India House and then turn left into India Place. Walk across it and continue as it turns into Montreal Place. At the end of the road, cross the Strand at the traffic lights. Directly in front of you will be the archway to Somerset House. Please pause the commentary until you reach a safe place near the arches. Somerset House is a neoclassical quadrangle building that replaced a Tudor palace that belonged to the Duke of Somerset, hence the name. Inigo Jones was one of the architects. It is now a centre for the arts and has many interesting temporary exhibitions. I suggest looking at their website, somersethouse.org.uk, to see if their current offering takes your fancy. The reason I brought you here today, however, is the Courtauld Gallery, which is to the right just inside the arches that you've entered. This collection ranges from the Middle Ages to the 20th century, but I always think of it for their outstanding Impressionist paintings. There is an entrance fee, but if you're an art lover, I think you'll get your money's worth. If you're not sure, have a look at their website, courtauld.ac.uk, and have a peek at what they have to offer. Remember, I'm only making suggestions. It is always up to you if you want to visit a venue. Please pause the commentary now if you'd like to visit the gallery. We are next heading to the Thames, so after exiting the building, turn left, and then turn left again once outside the archway. Continue down the Strand to the first intersection you come to, marked the A301 on the map, and cross at the pedestrian crossing. Turn left after crossing and make your way towards Waterloo Bridge. Just before reaching the bridge, take the stairs down to the Victoria Embankment and turn right. Cross Savoy Street, and when at Savoy Place, just after crossing, you can briefly turn right to see the statue of the great physicist Michael Faraday, the father of the electric motor and the law of induction. Apologies for the terrible photo. Go back to the corner of Savoy Place and cross at the pedestrian crossing to enter Victoria Embankment Gardens. Pause commentary until you reach there. I will confess that the primary reason I brought you here is the beautiful tribute to Scotland's favourite poet, but as you make your way down the path, keep an eye out for the striking Arthur Sullivan statue, Robert Raikes, the founder of the Sunday School movement, the fountain commemorating Henry Fawcett, who, among many innovations regarding the postal service, took part in the 1860 Oxford debate with Charles Darwin on the origin of the species, and the rather adorable memorial to the Imperial Camel Corps. Just past this last statue on the right, you will see the larger-than-life monument to Robert Burns. Pause commentary until you reach there. I confess that very few statues really impress me, and I mostly point them out to highlight the person's impact on history. But the obvious passion that the sculptor, Sir John Steele, had for the subject is evident. This is the third bronze casting of this work, and it was unveiled in 1884. If you're struggling to think of a Robert Burns poem, you've possibly sung one on New Year's Eve, Auld Lang Syne. You may also, in a romantic moment, have quoted, "Oh, my love is like a red, red rose that's newly sprung in June." It's just occurred to me that the last two lines of this poem, "And I will come again, my love, though it were 10,000 mile," may have, in however minute a way, influenced another great Scottish artist, the Proclaimers, in their epic song 500 Miles. This is just me musing, though. We now have the only loop on today's tour. Turn with your back to Mr. Burns, and you may see an imposing obelisk on the opposite side of Victoria Embankment through the trees. Whether you choose to view it or not, please make your way back to the Robert Raikes statue. Pause commentary until you reach there. Please wait there until I say for everyone to follow the next section of commentary if skipping the obelisk. For all those that enjoy a bit of Egyptian history in random places, please follow the next set of directions. With the front of the statue behind you, exit the park through the opening to Victoria Embankment. Cross at the pedestrian crossing, keeping an eye out for cyclists especially as they zip along here at incredible speed. Once across, turn right and you will immediately see the obelisk in front of you with the two sphinxes. Pause commentary until you reach there. This is Cleopatra's Needle, though it was actually dedicated to the pharaoh Thutmose III in 1460 BCE, so the name may have more to do with the fact that it sailed from Alexandria, Cleopatra's capital. It had a horrific journey to its current location, starting when the ship got into trouble in the Bay of Biscay off the west coast of France. The steamship sent to tow her, the Olga, sent 6 volunteers onto the Cleopatra to rescue the crew, but sadly they all drowned in the attempt. Their names are commemorated on a plaque on the Needle. The crew from the Cleopatra was rescued and the tow ropes were cut, setting the ship to drift. 5 days later, it was spotted off the coast of the north of Spain, and after being towed to the nearest port, another steamship, the Anglia, was sent to bring the Needle to England. It finally arrived in January 1878 and was erected the following September. I'm sure something far easier could have been done to celebrate the victory over Napoleon in the Battle of the Nile and the Battle of Alexandria, but the Victorians were fairly obsessed with Egyptology, so I guess it's not hard to believe that they would go to such lengths. Next, please retrace your steps to the statue of Robert Rijks. Pause commentary until you reach there. Everyone, please follow the next set of instructions. Walk past the statue so the back of it is behind you and exit the park onto Savoy Place. Carefully cross the road and walk up the left-hand side of Carding Lane until you reach a street lamp about halfway along. Pause commentary until you reach there. This gas lamp has a rather interesting power source. It runs off the gases from London's sewers. The last example of its kind left in London, but best not to dwell too long on what's happening below to make those gases. Its primary function was to remove the potentially dangerous gases by dispelling them over the heads of the passers-by. Hence their full name, sewer gas destructor lamps. The lamp dates from the Victorian period, though this one is a replica after a traffic accident damaged the original. The locals, as a result of this lamp, refer to this street as Farting Lane. Please next continue up Carding Lane, going up the stairs at the end and crossing the Strand at the pedestrian crossing. Continue going straight onto Southampton Street in front of you. Any Canadians listening may wish to make a quick detour to the left onto Maiden Lane to visit the infamous Maple Leaf, a sports bar with a heavy Canadian theme. Everyone else, please continue to the end of Southampton Street and cross Henrietta Street when safe to do so. You are now at Covent Garden. Pause commentary until you reach there. The first mention of the area dates to 1200 CE when the land was owned by Westminster Abbey, and it was used as the garden for the abbey and the convent, which is how it's got its name. Fast forward to 1630, and the 5th Earl of Bedford commissioned Inigo Jones, yes, him again, perhaps the Wren Jones tour would have been the best name, to create a public square here. It proved a huge success among the wealthy. After the Great Fire in 1666, the focus shifted to fruit and veg selling. In the 18th century, the 6th Duke of Bedford hired Charles Fowler to design the market building as you see it today. Though ornate to our eyes, it was seen as very fit for purpose at the time. By the 1970s, the market had greatly outgrown the building, and there were plans to demolish it. Local residents campaigned to save it, and it reopened in 1980 as a specialty shopping centre. I suggest you have a wander through the market building where street acts and aspiring opera singers are often performing. If you do stop to watch a show, please give the artists a tip if you are able to do so. They do this for a living. Another attraction at Covent Garden is the London Transport Museum. This focuses mostly on the history of public transport, so buses, trams, and underground trains, though there are a few other items featured. Particularly good if you have children with you. I'd allow a couple of hours for your visit. When finished looking around, please restart the commentary when you are on the opposite side of the market from where you started, at the corner of James Street and King Street roughly. Pause commentary until you reach there. Please make your way up James Street, carefully crossing Floral Street, and you will see Covent Garden Underground Station on the left. The platforms are reached by lift, that's elevator to our North American guests. Do not be tempted to take the stairs. There are 130 steps and you have done enough walking today. It's on the Piccadilly line. If you have a fear of lifts, you can go up to Longacre, turn left, and walk 5 minutes down the road to Leicester Square Station, which is on the Northern and Piccadilly lines. This is the end of the St. Paul's to Covent Garden tour. I truly hope you have enjoyed it, and you will join me again on A Path Less Travelled UK soon.